Hi, my dear brothers and sisters. This is Bobby Kitain, and welcome to talk number 2 of our series entitled Immovable. And allow me to share with you my reflection on talk number 2. The title of my presentation is Unrelenting Zeal. I'd like to begin by sharing with you something about my father. My dad was an avid sports fan. Ever since he was a little boy until his old age, he loved basketball so much. To the point that even when he was already very sick, he was sick with diabetes and he had a heart problem, he would still go and watch live basketball games. Even though he was having a difficult time walking already, even though he would often have shortness of breath, he would still be there. Why? Because he was passionate about basketball. In some ways, that's zeal. Zeal is defined by the dictionary as a strong emotion of spirit based on deep affection that seeks to obtain what is loved or to remove what stands in the way. What stood in my father's way was his health, and yet he did not allow it to stop him from watching basketball games. He was passionate for basketball games. But zeal is something more than just passion. In fact, the Catholic Encyclopedia defined Christian zeal as love in action. And I love that definition. Love in action. It's not just an emotion. It's not just some nice feelings or good feelings inside of you. It's something that can be seen in your life, in overt acts, in concrete actions in your life. My dear friend, St. Paul would probably be a disciple that can be characterized as zealous. He had unrelenting zeal. Unrelenting simply means that it's something that can't be stopped. It's something that cannot be prevented. He is zealous in good times and in bad times. He is zealous whether things are going well in his life or not. He is zealous whether things are okay or things are not okay. Regardless of how he feels, he was zealous for the Christian faith. If you do not believe me, allow me to read from Philippians. We're not sure actually who wrote Philippians, but many people say it's St. Paul. So allow me to just read to you a passage from Philippians. In Philippians 1:20-24, he said, "My eager expectation and hope is that I shall not be put to shame in any way, but that with all boldness," in another translation it says, "with all zeal, now as always, Christ will be magnified in my body, whether by life or by death. For to me, life is Christ, and death is gain. If I go on living in the flesh, that means fruitful labor for me. And I do not know which I shall choose. I am caught between the two. I long to depart this life, and yet with Christ, for that is far better. Yet, that I remain in the flesh is more necessary for your benefit." Here we see that St. Paul is somebody who was torn. He was in a dilemma. He wanted to die because he wants to be with God. He wants to be with Jesus, whom he loved with all his heart and with all his life. And yet, something within him tells him that he should stay behind for the sake of those whom he evangelized. Now, if you were St. Paul, you'd say, why would I stay in this life? With all the struggles that I face each day, with all the trials and difficulties that I face, I'd rather go with Christ. But no, St. Paul said, no, I want to stay because I want to continue the mission that God has entrusted to me. He wants to be with the Lord, and yet he knows that he has to stay for the sake of the Christians, for the sake of those people whom he evangelized. And there was nothing that prevented St. Paul from doing his mission. He was sent to jail. He was put on trial. He was mocked. He was tortured, and yet St. Paul continued to do what the Lord wanted him to do. Unrelenting zeal. So the question now is zeal the same as enthusiasm? How are they different? Allow me to share with you now the difference between enthusiasm and zeal.